Welcome back to Basic Binges, everyone. I'm Mike Manalo, your host for tonight's Ms. Marvel season finale recap. Today is a very happy but also somewhat bittersweet show because it's our last, everyone. I know with the final episode of Ms. Marvel, at least for the season, we hope for the season. I think this is going to be our last episode too. But that being said, this is a doozy of an episode because much like this doozy of an episode for the season finale, and much like any Avengers, good Avengers crossover, we have everyone on the call today. We've got a full house. Literally everyone who has participated in a Ms. Marvel episode this season is now on this call. We're joining forces, and I'm so excited because we've got so much to cover, not just from an amazing season finale, in my personal opinion. We'll go around and ask everyone theirs too. It's very soon, but also an entire amazing series to cover because I'm pretty sure, and we'll get into this later, this is definitely one of the top MCU shows for everyone that's on this call right now. But before we dive into all those details, I'm going to start kicking off things by having everyone introduce themselves. And since we got a full panel tonight, we'll breeze through these. But we'll go ahead and we'll start with, to my right, Jasmin.
Hey, guys.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
It's Jasmin is like my Arabic pronunciation. I know it's really hard for people to say. So Jasmin is totally fine. Jasmin Joestar on all social media. Big Miss Marvel fan. So the fact that this series is over, I'm still trying to get the concept that it even existed. It's still so surreal for me. So I'm really happy to be here and with these amazing people. So yeah, thanks for having me again.
Of course. Rue, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Rue, and I go by Helalipop on all of the socials, mostly Instagram. I have so much to talk about, and I don't think we have enough time. But we're gonna get into it. We got a lot of stuff to discuss.
This is like a 5-hour special, right?
It really is. And also, I'm so excited to be like talking with all of you because like I've been like following Jasmin for like 40 years on Instagram.
Dude, I was about to say the same. I didn't get the chance. I'm like so excited to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally. But anyway, I digress. Hi everyone, I'm Rue.
The power of Ms. Marvel bringing everyone together. That's what I love about this.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Rue. Toni, we'll go to you next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Toni, the Toni Sanchez. You can find me on all the socials at the Toni Sanchez. I'm so excited to be here. And Rue, the amount of times that I've seen you at various cons, Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, and like actually told myself, like, you're too hyped right now. You cannot approach this person with this level of energy. And I've just made the choice to walk away and just sort of like admire your cosplays from afar and just like be a total creeper. So I'm like so excited that you're here tonight.
That's really cute and very silly.
Yeah, and the rest of y'all are
So
cool
wholesome.
too. Yeah, welcome. But no, I'm so excited to see everybody. This has been such a fun series to talk about. And I mean, tonight, the episode that we're going to get into tonight, I mean, I'm literally tingling. I'm like, I might phase into the next multiverse because I'm just so excited about all the things we're going to discuss tonight.
Thank you, Toni. I think all of us definitely are too. And to your point, I'd love to call out how Rue's got, if everyone takes notice of her glasses and her headscarf, this is perfect Ms. Marvel colors right now, guys. It's like perfect time for you to wear that. So amazing. And last but not least, Mike Lee, would you like to go?
Yes, I would like to go. Thank you very much. I'm Michael J. Lee, and oh my gosh, this episode was so amazing. I just like so much of it and how it just completes the story and it's just Miss Marvel. It's just Miss Marvel coming to her own. So yeah.
Love it. All right. With the intros out of the way, and I think everyone got kind of a preview of what we're going to move forward with now. We wanted to touch on overall impressions, and just out of the gate for me, this is literally the way you stick a landing. I think the MCU shows have had trouble finding their footing. Not finding their footing. They've usually always started out really strong, and then they kind of get rushed towards the end. I think that that's happened on every single Marvel show until now. I think they stuck the landing with this one, and I don't know how everyone else feels, but I love the living hell out of this. Please, I'm putting it out there. What did everyone think of this episode?
Loved it.
Talking, we were all just like looking at each other.
Wait. Like, who goes first?
Right.
And I'll just
Don't
like,
want to interrupt
I'll do
anybody.
it.
So I thought that the show was just long enough to cover all the main topics and to weave the various storylines together. And I know we're talking about Miss Marvel, but like my issue with Thor, Love and Thunder, and the multiverse movie Doctor Strange 2 was that I think they didn't give justice to all the various storylines and the editing was off. But on this show, you could see like the love and care that went into all the various storylines, all the characters, everyone had their time to shine. And it just ended in a way that you felt satisfied, but also has you looking forward to more, you know? So I thought it was masterfully done. And I called it 2 or 3 episodes ago that Carol Danvers was gonna make an appearance, and she did. So I don't know what I win except being satisfied.
That was a good call, dude. That was a good call. I am so satisfied, but I think I'm even more satisfied. Just like Rue, you hit it like perfectly. Everything you said was like literally on the nail, all like on the head. Sorry, of the nail. But I think what's even more satisfying, just like the extra cherry on top, is kind of the ode to the comics. So I know a lot of people's main issue was essentially how she got her powers and what her powers were, because they changed that up for the series. But then she did the Embiggen, she did the transformation, so she does have like some shifting abilities to Carol Danvers, the mid-credit scene, as well as the fact that she is an Inhuman, which so many people, a mutant Inhuman. So, oh my God, the internet exploded, by the way. It's still disgusting. Yeah. Like people are like in their feels about this, and not like the fanboys are mad, which I thrive off of that.
I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll get more into that later. But yeah, I just wanted to, everything Rue said, and then on top of that, the fact like the heavy ode to the first comic and all the issues that people had. I feel like they're just like the perfect red bow tie on top. So very, very, very good season finale and a great way of ending all 6 episodes.
Yeah, I cried my eyes out.
Yes, I did.
Several
10 minutes of crying towards the end.
Episode. I just was like so overcome. And I just want to, first off, I'm someone who doesn't understand when the criticism launched at Marvel projects is just like, oh, there's too much fan service. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, you came here to not have fun? Is that what you're telling me? Because I eat all of that stuff up. Anything that is like, there are some parts of the story where I'm just like, well, that's a stretch, but I'm having so much fun that I jump on board. They've gone ahead and there's enough trust there in what they've been able to build up, not just the overall MCU, but definitely within this Miss Marvel series, that like, I'm in it to win it. And I mean, we talked about it last week about the things that just would have made us completely check out, just been like, okay, well, here we are back on this train again, but they completely avoided it, which I was so excited for. And I absolutely think they stuck the landing. I do believe, though, that Disney overall, not just Marvel, but Disney overall, they're really attached to this whole 6-episode format, which I don't think works for every single story. And I think that there are definitely some parts along the way that I'm just like, I'm not mad about the stops that we made along the way. I do have issue with the way that some of these parts were connected, and in some cases not even connected. But again, I'm having so much fun that I didn't care by the end of it. I really didn't. By the time that we rolled to that post-credit scene, I was like, I'm pumped, I'm excited. I actually do want to keep on watching the MCU. Every time somebody wants to go ahead and start talking about Marvel fatigue, and I'm like, I'm sure that's a thing for somebody, but not for me. Like, not for me. These little tidbits and Easter eggs and the way that they keep teeing things up, it does keep me interested. It does keep me intrigued. So yeah, I'm only pumped for what's to come.
Right. Mike Lee, what about you?
I have to admit, I started feeling that Marvel fatigue starting this year, because the shows and movies haven't been living up to my expectations. But once Thor came around, but then especially with this show kind of restored my faith. This is, if you get the right person behind the ship, it's going to be great. Yeah, so I just loved it. To everyone's point, it was just so great how they figured out how to, like you said, Mike, stick the landing, because like you said, they've had trouble finishing it off, especially when there was such strong penultimate episode. But here they just figured out, I guess they had faith in their project, especially Marvel and Disney said, go ahead, do what you need to do, tell the story you need to tell, and then they went with it. So yeah.
I love it. And it's completely understandable, by the way, that folks do have Marvel fatigue. We're putting out a show and a movie and a show and a movie and a show and a movie every month. I'm going to be honest. I'm one of the rare people that I think I'm impervious to Marvel fatigue, because I can do this all day. But overall, it's just, I get it. I totally get it. But yeah, I think that folks that were experiencing a lot of Marvel fatigue because of some of their disappointments in maybe Multiverse of Madness, in Strange, possibly even Moon Knight, not me per se. I wasn't disappointed in any of those things, but a lot of people were. When they watched Ms. Marvel, and when they watched not just the first episode, which everybody was instantly pretty charmed at, but to the last episode, they just instantly fell in love with this. And I think it's definitely restoring a lot of people's faith in the MCU. This is a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, guys. It's the highest rated Marvel project. Yeah, it's the highest rated Marvel project right now. And
I heard it's equal to Black Panther. Like, that's the only thing. But in terms of the MCU Disney Plus shows, it's the highest.
It's definitely the highest. 98%. Right? Yeah.
And that's even with the review bombing, right? Like, I know people do that. I don't really pay attention to it, but I've been seeing a lot of chatter about review bombing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's still ranked
and
so highly. Wow.
Screw those guys. They're a bunch of jerks and trolls, but yeah.
Like, I don't understand people.
We know who you are.
It's not anything to do with your life. Like,
cry about it.
The kitchen clean.
They don't.
Please. Like, you have spare time. Let's go. Like, God.
I'd like to pause really quickly and just give a shout out to TJ Butlag, who's been diligently watching and messaging us. Thank you so much for your amazing comments. He wanted to add that this is easily a top 3 Disney Plus series and the top 10 MCU overall for him. That this is the best Disney Plus finale, tied with Loki for them. And also, they've seen one of her original writers saying that the writer was supposed to be a mutant, but when it was in Marvel Comics, I guess, but wasn't touching X-Men at all because Fox still owned it. So I'm guessing with that mixed with Kevin's obvious disdain for the Inhumans, and their biggest fanboy was like, super douche Perlmutter is what led the change. I'm butchering your words, TJ, but like, I'm so sorry about that.
Perlmutter, yeah.
But is it time to address this? Is it time to address the whole? Is it time to address the whole mutant Easter egg?
Because I think with that, we have to get into it, guys. We
just jumped into the end, basically. Let's do it.
Yeah, I love your comment because it acted as a catalyst for we got to just bust the doors open here. And if you haven't seen this, I don't know what you're doing watching this, because there's spoilers like crazy.
You had 2 days.
It was like spoiled.
Yeah.
X-Men started to trend.
Exactly. As soon as, even for the show, Rue, as soon as we started, we talked about Carol Danvers, and we're definitely going to get into that for sure. Yeah. But I think we have to get into the biggest elephant upon the biggest elephant in this elephant room, which is that, Kamala Khan is a mutant, guys. And cue the do sound right there. We all heard that.
Everybody instantaneously was like X-Men.
Yeah.
Like everybody
I heard
got
mutation,
it, right?
and then when I heard that theme, I'm like,
When he's in I was crying for I'm not even exaggerating. I was crying for 10 solid minutes, and I could not stop crying until they got to that part where he's like, "Yeah, we looked at your DNA, mute." And then I heard the X-Men song, and then I instantly was like, What?
I had to like,
Oh,
Knocked me
so
out of
good.
like my tears.
yeah, like right after the mid-credit scene, I instantly went to the like song credits and like that was it. I didn't
You had to
hear it.
confirm?
I had to confirm like I wasn't hearing things. So
I
Very
went
glad.
to Twitter and Twitter was like on fire. So I was like, okay, I was correct.
I freaked out. I thought I had a tumor. I was like, no, I'm just hearing X-Men themes again. Ah, you know, but no, it's real. And I was like, shit, it's the X-Men theme. Yeah. Rue or Tony, what did you guys think?
I mean, okay, so I do want to address that. Yes, Twitter was on fire. Like Twitter was just it was madness because you had people that were like, I even had people reaching out to me that were just like, what is this? The X-Men are not just an Easter egg that you can just drop. And I'm just like, are y'all hearing yourselves? Are you hearing what's happening? We have finally crossed the threshold. Okay. We are no longer afraid of the M word. We can say mutant, we can say mutation, because you couldn't even say that. That's why they had to go ahead and start using enhanced within the Infinity Saga. You couldn't say, and then superpowered sounded weird, so. And then of course they tried to kind of sort of not really pull in the whole Inhuman Terrigen Mist, as the reason for why all these enhanced were all of a sudden popping up, but they weren't addressing that within the overall Infinity Saga because that was only relegated to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it was just this really weird segmentation of, well, kinda, not really. Here are some mutant adjacent characters with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, but they're just enhanced, and really they're, I don't know. They just are, and it just was just this really clumsy handling. Because you could tell that they were just so desperate for so many characters that they just did not have access to. And then they realized, like, wow, we can either bring in these characters that either don't really make much sense thematically. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of B and C list characters that exist within each, little sub umbrella, right? For each, like, we could have done that. But then there really wasn't any point, because then you're just pulling in a bunch of people for what? For no reason, really. So then you just started fabricating reasons as to why new characters were popping up. And that's fine. That's okay. But we all knew what was happening. We all saw it. Like, there was no getting around it. So now that we're finally over that, we're over the hump, we can finally see a brand new day dawning. And then I was just so taken aback by how literally half of Twitter was just like, absolutely not. This is not my X-Men. And I'm just like, what are you bitching about? I don't understand. Like, we have been in purgatory with
Right.
films.
Yeah.
Shut up and appreciate what you get.
Yeah.
You get what you
Right.
get. Don't get upset.
Literally
Stop.
over 20 years, we were getting substandard X-Men storytelling. There were some gems here
Very
and there
substandard.
for sure, but we're here. It's going to happen, and it is happening. And I don't understand why people are upset about it at all. Any of the arguments that I've seen have just pretty much amounted to, well, it's not what I wanted. And it's like, I don't understand what you want.
So you could write your own story. I mean, am I like blanking out? Wasn't Professor X in Multiverse of Madness?
Correct.
And Fantastic
Right.
Four, X-Men.
All right then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know Fantastic Four, but yeah, Professor
I mean, both
Charles
of them.
is there.
So we've been getting
All right,
X-Men
then.
like
is the premiere.
it's like the soft
X-Men.
you know, when like
Yeah.
influencers get a boyfriend or girlfriend and they like slowly start to like show them in their stories, and it's like
Over.
it's called the soft intro or whatever. Like
Secret.
you'll just see a
Yeah.
The
hand,
lo-fi
you'll
music.
see like a guy.
Yeah.
This is what Marvel's
Yeah.
doing to us. So
It's Kevin Feige going like, I'm not sure this is a thing yet, so we're gonna toe dip and put Professor X in there, and then he's like, now it's really a thing, so we're gonna commit.
but he
to it.
dies
He's
within 15 minutes. But now, yeah. I think keep going, Rue. Sorry. Go for it.
No. Yeah. No, I mean, I love haters because they make me laugh. I was just really happy about it because I love X-Men. I grew up watching it, and I'm really curious to see how this phase of the MCU develops. So I was happy. I wasn't mad about it, and if you were mad about it, I'm sorry for you.
It's just,
And
I
look-
don't, I
Oh,
haven't, I have yet to hear an argument as to why this, even just the dropping of, oh, you have a mutation is somehow well, first off, like we know, like even if you've read the comics, you know that even people who have a mutation don't necessarily means that they are a mutant. So if Bruno, who by the way is apparently like the smartest 16-year-old ever, which okay, cool, I'm not going to be mad about it, and apparently he has a way to sequence her DNA. All right, fine, I'm on board. Who cares?
They just skip that whole part. You're like, wait a minute, rewind.
That's why he's going to Caltech at a young age.
All
Come on.
these, like,
Agree.
I wish I
agree,
could go to
yes.
Caltech at
I
like
mean,
14.
we don't know, you guys. She
Right.
might have sent her blood out to 23andMe or something like
Right.
that.
Or-
And apparently 23andMe can also detect whether or not you have a mutation. Like, okay,
Oh, maybe it's X23 and me. You know, I mean, like that could be
Uh-huh.
possible. Yeah.
I see what you did there.
All right, I gotta go. That was
and I'm gone.
Sorry, everyone
was
watching.
good.
That was terrible.
no, but
Yeah.
I like how
There's
they
nothing just by dropping the word mutation. There's
Yeah.
nothing that then goes ahead and just completely subverts anything and everything that's going to go ahead and like come from this point forward. Like there's
Exactly.
like even if you were to go ahead, and I really don't think it's going to happen. I'm so sorry to say that in humans they shit the bed. Terrigen
Yes.
mist shit the bed. Like I really don't see it coming around. But then again, weirder things have happened. I mean, hey, we're here talking about, X-Men are on. They're here. They're coming. Like,
Yeah.
so it's entirely possible that they could bring it right back around, and we could have also Inhumans and mutants like in
Yeah.
phase 4 and 5.
Yeah.
That could happen, but there's nothing wrong with them just saying like, yeah, you've got a mutation, and that actually helps you out to do whatever it is that you do. There's nothing wrong with that.
At this point in time, we also have to consider that as much as we love the Inhumans and the idea of the Inhumans, it's a much more convoluted explanation to pause an entire show or an entire universe or an entire franchise to say that, hey, there are these aliens that came down and basically did experiments on people, and now when those people walk through this Terrigen mist, which we never introduced in the MCU, they turn into rocks and then they become, empowered, or some of them die. Like, that's a very convoluted explanation versus the mutants explanations from the comics, they were just born with it. There was just a mutation on the X gene. So to explain, since we're explaining Kamala right now, to stop everything and try and force an Inhuman storyline into this show, this universe, rather than just say, hey, she was born with it. I honestly think from a narrative standpoint, that's the easier route to go. There's nothing wrong with that. And for those complaining about it, this doesn't destroy or negate the idea of what mutants are in the comics or in the MCU. People born with special abilities, period, I think they kind of touched on it a little bit as well in WandaVision, because before she was experimented on with the Mind Stone, when the Tony Stark missile hit, she kind of altered the probability field of it so that it wouldn't go off. I mean, that's somewhat of a mutation on its own, and there's a reason why she also survived Strucker's experiments. So even though they didn't necessarily, introduce the concept of mutations in WandaVision, especially since Wanda Maximoff herself is a mutant, they didn't. It doesn't mean that they didn't negate that idea and they're just coming out of nowhere with it with Ms. Marvel.
Right.
And if you don't like the idea of Ms. Marvel being what introduced it being the show that introduced mutations and mutants to the MCU, just pretend that you got it from WandaVision, because it was sort of introduced there too. If that doesn't work for you, then pretend that you got it from Multiverse of Madness, because Professor X was literally there. So just,
But also, you're anti-science, because there's no other logical explanation for this make-believe world that we're discussing. So
Well, I mean, there's even debate within, comic book circles as to whether or not hyperintelligence is a mutation. So then the argument is then made as to whether or not people like Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Hank Pym,
Bruno.
do they somehow qualify as a mutant even though they don't have nifty? Because the only way in which people are like, oh yeah, we all have mutations. All humans have mutations. And whether or not they've identified the one that makes you shoot laser beams out of your eyes, that just seems to be the one that gives you the most explosive kind of mutant ability. And that's fine. But it just seems like such a silly thing to light Twitter on fire for, where it's just they said mutation and that's not what I wanted. And it's like, okay, well, obviously it's on the way. It's coming. I don't know if that means that we're going to get like an Xavier Institute 22 episode season on Disney Plus in 2025. I don't know if X-Men is coming, to kick off phase 5. I have no idea. I think all they want to do is just make it known that like we have them back in the stable. We obviously have plans, and you should be excited about it because for so long we didn't have our A-list team underneath the Marvel banner. We had to make do with the B and C listers. People seem to forget that there was a time when Captain America and Tony Stark were not A-list characters. They were firmly B and C list, but it's only because that they had this whole entire it was really a risk to go ahead and say like, we're going to make these movies and then it's all going to lead to one bigger movie. Let's hope we sell some toys, I guess. And then it worked. And now people just seem to forget that, like, I feel like we would be more pissed off if they hadn't mentioned anything yet. If we got to the end of phase 4 and there hadn't been that Professor X cameo in Doctor Strange, if there had been no mention of mutation or anything like sprinkled here and there, I feel like we would be just absolutely like, well, what the hell are you doing? We have them back. What are you not like? When is this happening? Are we really supposed to wait until the year 2030 in order for you guys to finally figure out how to utilize mutants? It just feels like damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I will say though, like I recently went to Disney and Universal, and I'm seeing the tiniest bit of Miss Marvel merch. So they did have purses. But I'm looking for more. Like, come on, like you want to like push the success of a show. Thank you. Like where's all this stuff?
In Yasmin's house. But
there.
No.
Box Lunch and Hot Topic have a really shout out for them. Obviously I'm biased. I do influencer things with them, but this is from Disney. This is from Box Lunch. It's the shirt that Camilla wears. It says "Ladies Get Information," right off of Beyonce's "Ladies Get Information." But yeah, Valkyrie, Captain Marvel, and I believe Wasp. And it says Avenger Con here on the side. They have a sweater. Hot Topic has more cosplay-esque things where they have like the whole dress, leggings, the green jacket she wears. So slowly but surely, Loungefly dropped a backpack, and
they have like they're selling like the different purses at Disney.
Yeah, but there's not enough. I mean, I'm happy we're getting some things, and then Miss Marvel's in the Disney park for a short amount of time. I'm trying to go this weekend and see her, but yeah, no, we need more merchandise ASAP.
I want to buy the bangle. I mean, like I have bangles.
Yeah.
I have boxes, but I want a light up bangle. I don't want to make it,
dude. So I got it made. So if you want one, I'll ship it over for you.
All right.
I really want.
But you gotta paint it yourself, because
I
got it 3D printed.
Not to digress, but that is kind of like what Disney is doing. They've been buying very limited amounts of their merchandise. And I think that is part of their like post-COVID strategy. So that way they actually sell out of these things.
Right. I think there's a lot of children things too. Like they have
but I think it's also part of the strategy where they're only releasing a shirt, a backpack, a hat, and like the full
like how they weren't prepared at all for people to be obsessed with Grogu, and now like everyone
it took them forever.
I will say that there's, and this is the portion of the stream, by the way, where we just pimp Disney merchandise to you guys for sponsorship purposes, because they pay us so much. No, I'm kidding. But there was this shirt that I got that says like New Jersey Avenger Con, got like all the different characters on there. And then the one that I'm rocking right now says I could do this all day, New Jersey Avenger Con.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like
I need to discuss something. You just reminded me, like, there are people now who want to go to New Jersey. Like,
that wasn't even filmed in New Jersey, homie. It was filmed in Georgia.
I was gonna say, do they have an actual convention
listen,
like that?
I work in New Jersey. I've lived in Jersey City for 7 years. I recognize all the places where they're filming or the backdrops and the street names. Lived on Grove Street and Newark Ave and all those places. And I'm just like, look, Jersey City is great. I'm not gonna shit on Jersey City, but New Jersey, it's just a suburban state. There's just houses there. Like, that's the power of Marvel, though. Like, if you see like the numbers bump in New Jersey's tourism, it's because of this show. No one has ever said, "Oh yeah, I want to visit New Jersey." Everyone drives through New Jersey to get to New York or DC. That's what New Jersey is. The turnpike.
Plus, you know what? The MCU has so many New York heroes already.
Yeah.
They've got like
Yeah,
50 million. Jersey has one, you know, and that's like, I love that it's inspiring
Captain
people to want to go
Marvel,
to Jersey.
Captain America, and Black Widow were looking for it.
Yeah, it's
Winter
true.
Soldier.
That's right.
Levi's
They
in
visited New Jersey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's in
No,
Jersey.
and I will say, like, the show did a really good job of showcasing what New Jersey life is like. It is very family centric, very community centric, you know. It's not like dodging the subway like it is in like the New York shows and movies. So they did a really good job of that. And the thing that they did, and I know we're kind of digressing and going around like what happened in the episode, but in this episode, as well as like the earlier episodes where they show like the mosque community and also the Jersey City community as a whole, the high school community, like that's really what it is like in New Jersey. Like that's a place where you like raise your family and people all know each other, and like, you know, somebody's parents has your back, and like no one's like left out. Like that like idyllic American community really does exist in New Jersey. I know there are other places in the US that are like that too, especially when it comes to Muslims, who are still such a minority in the US. But like that's definitely one of the things that brought tears to my eyes throughout the episode, where like people were there to defend her even though they didn't know it was Kamala, or they did know it was Kamala, or whatever the situation was. The way that Imam was like so nice and genuinely helpful and not like a jerk. And when he was like quoting scripture, it was to be encouraging and not like you're gonna burn in hell, you know, or anything like that. Like the whole like community aspect, they did such a great job of showcasing New Jersey like that. Even though as a New Yorker, I reserve the right to shit on New York. Otherwise, New Jersey, because like I can't be a New Yorker without doing that. They did a good job in the show though.
I love it.
That's amazing. I totally.
Can I just say that I do want Sheik Abdullah to be the new Phil Coulson? I want him in every single post
I would
credit.
love that.
I want him in one shots. I want him beamed up to whoever Nick Fury is, so that way he can hang out with a bunch of squirrels. Like I just want him in everything. He was like everything that I wanted that character to
I
be.
hope it's a halal hot dog. Like
I know. He was so precious, and I feel like I would be horribly negligent if I didn't give that character like a shout out, because he was just he had so little screen time, and he's easily like one of my favorite things about the entire show.
We have a lot of awesome engagement and comments. I'd be remiss if I didn't address some of the fans that are watching right now. Thank you guys again for watching. Baz Lightyear, you had 2 comments. One saying that you, not gonna lie, you missed the X-Men theme that was dropped because you were really excited about the dropping of Mutation, and that you wanted the halal haram hats, but she's resisting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Get
they're
them.
resisting.
Buy them,
Yeah.
man. Support
I totally
small
bought those
businesses.
hats. And to
Wait.
quickly touch on that topic, Miss Marvel did something very quietly that I don't know if a lot of people notice, but they actually commissioned a lot of people throughout this show. The artwork on the walls are different people of color that created it, including Desi people. The hats is another Middle Eastern creator. So they were supporting small businesses very quietly. I wish they would and they featured art like every week, multiple times, like fan art. That was amazing. And I think like no one's discussing this, but I think a lot of people don't know, and they didn't really make it a big deal, and I wish they would, or they can in the future. But the music that they used, the artists that they commissioned, the hats, the merchandise, there's so many things that they like went out and they're like, we're gonna support our people, our community, these small businesses.
I love
Very
it.
deliberate. And one point on the music, they did have a lot of classic like Indian Pakistani music from like 50 years ago, as well as more recent classics. But the Sweatshop Boys were also in this last episode. That's Riz Ahmed's rap band, rap group. They're not a band, but like, and I heard this and I was like, oh my god, everything's coming together. All of the Pakistani like Disney stuff in one episode. it was
Mhm.
it's
It was awesome. Yeah, it was amazing. I think
love that.
not, and it needs a lot more credit. Where like I need somebody to put like all these Easter eggs together and be like, look at all the amazing things they did.
Okay, so that has been happening, and I
Okay.
did want to point that out, that the representation is not just what's happening on screen, it's actually what's happening around it, because I would like go up and be like, these videos that are popping up either on TikTok or these listicles that are popping up on my feed, where it's like you can tell that there has been like the one person that is on staff for a specific outlet, and they're like, this is my moment. I get to go ahead and feature all the amazing things that only I know. I'm a member of this community, and like
Yeah.
these are the groups that you need to know, because these are the songs that were just dropped in the newest episode of Miss Marvel. Where can you get the halal and haram hats? Well, it's this designer, and this, like, that is happening 100%.
I got those
And
hats.
I've been so jazzed to see it, because you can tell that people have just been like, I have been so, like, those people are just like so excited to finally create something that is so mainstream and
Right.
that people are definitely paying attention to in the moment. And it is something that they don't even have to think about. You can tell that they're just like, yeah, we've been you. Like, those are 100% the groups that we listen
Yeah.
to. Those are that's the art we consume. That's the art that we appreciate.
Right.
Like, it's amazing. Like, what's
It
been
went
happening.
even deeper than that. Like I just saw someone point it out, but this is like a very deep Muslim reference that I didn't even get because I wasn't paying attention. But the title cards for Miss Marvel, because I don't know if you ever noticed, there's multiple title cards where they have it in different
Mhm.
names. So the last episode, the penultimate episode, episode 5, had every language that was written and used and spoken in India, Pakistan area prior to the partition or around the partition
Ooh.
time. They had it in every single language. So they like threw honor and respect that way to respect all the people's essentially ethnicities. And the number of the title cards in Miss Marvel is 99, which is an incredibly important number for Muslims because they say that there's 99 names for God, which is again another thing that I actually missed it until I read it. That somebody else noticed it. Did you see that, Ruth?
Yeah. So big ups to Neebs from Watch with Neebs, and he has his own podcast, Salam Nerds podcast. So he definitely discusses all these things and the references there, and he has a
Nice.
TikTok. Yeah, he brought that up.
Yeah. So that's probably where I saw it, because I saw like it on somebody's like Instagram story. I was like, oh, wait a minute. And then I just like thought about it, which there was a lot of references. And then there's a big one as well in the last episode that I started crying to. Is like they said a quote from the Quran that's actually in the comic. They switched it a little bit for the show to fit it, but the quote goes, if you save one person,
yeah,
one person's life, it's like you saved the whole world.
Mhm.
And I thought it's a very important quote. And I think like, and again, just to touch base on it really quick, like as a Muslim person and a Middle Eastern person watching this, we've had zero fucking positive representation. This just did the work for me in all 34 years of my life that I've wanted. And I've been a fan since I've been a kid, like a Marvel fan, a Disney fan, all that. It just did all of that for me in 1 6-episode series that was amazing. Like the fact that Yasmin Fletcher Nakia was like, she was, part of now representing the mosque, which breaks a lot of barriers. The fact that we have that mosque scene, it's accurately done. The Pakistan scene where it's not in like this weird yellow sepia tone. Suck it, Wonder Woman 1984. I saw what you did. And then don't like Gal Gadot for many reasons. Anyway, but I won't get there. But she like that very much like the whole like, oh, like it's all ancient and old. They didn't do that. They're very modern. They were when they were supporting her and they were defending her from the DOAD, whatever, the people, everybody was backing her up. Everybody, even including the Illuminati aunties that were like very much like
Illuminati's.
Yeah. She's never gonna get married. Like she
was
that
was
there.
Perfection. I'm so glad they put that in.
So there was so much like positivity and positive representation that just broke decades worth of horrible stereotypes and negative that the media just did. But so I was beyond happy.
That's why.
Oh, sorry.
No. To her point, I that's why I was like so happy what they did with Kamran, because it could have easily fallen into the stereotype like he's the Muslim villain and the terrorist sort of thing, but they really changed his character up to be more of the hero, to be more of the kind of the victim of his circumstance because of what's happening. He's suffering through a tragedy. He realizes he's lost his mom. So he, of course, he's going to process it differently, but they gave him a way out. And the community supported him, sort of thing. So that's why I was happy they just did that kind of heel turn with that character. So
I'm so glad you brought that up, Mike, because that's such an important point. And you hear so many times, like in the Muslim community or about a brown person in the news, where you're like, where did they go wrong? They were such a smart kid, smart student, blah, blah, blah. And like you said, circumstances led him or any person to perform unfortunate acts, right? Or destructive acts, or whatever the case may be. And the love that Kamala had for like humanity and for helping people, saved him. Like she gave him a way out, like you said, but it could have easily been like two enhanced individuals fighting each other and everybody like being collateral damage, which the prior MCU cycles were about, right? Like when they were opposing and just fighting and not really caring about it, but like having that love and compassion and like protecting him, protecting her community, when it's like you can understand and empathize with this kid who's scared, and he's going through stuff in his body and he doesn't really know how to grapple with it, and his mom died, and like so much anger, which I know as teenagers we all went through that phase, and now you have like superpowers or whatever. I thought that was such a nice way of doing it, and I also really appreciate that this like capstone episode talks a lot about the discrimination that the Muslim community faces in the US. Like when Bruno so innocently goes like, a mosque is a house of worship, it has like sanctuary, and Nak is like, this is a mosque in America, get out of here, again, those white people with their shoes, oh my god,
I want to scream.
They disobeyed the imam and they called him Sheik, which is not his title, it's Sheikh. They went all over the place, all over again, and this is the stuff that happens. And I haven't like read the chatter, but I'm hoping people are like, is this really what happens? Because yes, it is really what happens. And people in the masjid communities, they're on first name basis with all the cops in the neighborhood because the cops stop by all the time. And they do eat the cookies, like this is like really unrealistic that they didn't take any, because like, we have good food at the masjid, but that's really what happens. There is no safety or like expectation of being safe in a masjid in the US. That's just not there. So I'm really glad they brought that up.
A couple of things. One, apparently the sentiment was heard around the world as well that, you had people going into the mosque with their shoes on. Baz Lightyear was just responding that his girlfriend was yelling at the TV, take your damn shoes off, when, Deaver and her agents go in there.
We were all, yes.
All of us were.
Didn't you learn the first time?
No.
The other thing is, I'm really glad you guys pointed this out, because the main conflict, and one of the things that I loved about this episode was not, Kamala versus Cameron and some superpowered CGI slugfest. The real villain in this episode is discrimination. It's Deaver basically feeling threatened by these people who are enhanced. It's really, a symbol for, people being Islamophobia, right? Like, it's really a symbol, a metaphor for people seeing other people and just assuming they're threats, and not assuming that they're just innocent bystanders who might be confused or angry, and then attacking them, even though she's given the call not to. And that ends up being the main conflict of this series, which I absolutely loved. And by the way, everything that I just described is X-Men also. Okay, people? So if you're angry that she's a mutant, you just watched one of the best X-Men episodes on TV. So shut up. So yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much for pointing that out, because I've just been sitting here just like an animal.
He's gonna say it. He said the thing.
I noticed. I am really surprised and impressed with MCU going where they went by criticizing the Department of Homeland Security and ICE and the FBI and
that's
CIA
what happens
and everybody.
The cast, the directors, 3 of the 4 directors are Muslim.
Right.
So,
I like
the entire cast.
the prior ones, right? Like all of MCU up until I guess after Avengers or whatever was very pro-war. It's war propaganda. Like, like you could be like Captain America if you join the U.S. Army and blah blah blah. I mean, there's a little bit of humor, but really, these are vehicles to imprint on impressionable youth's minds to now join the armed forces of this country or whatever country. But I mean, it's very pro-America, right? Like all the superheroes are in the U.S. and one come from wherever Wanda came from. So the fact that they went around and they changed the narrative to be like, look, like this is what's happening. If you're a part of this institution, these are the things that you're doing. And like everybody was shocked that the officers were shooting at children. They actually did that. Like they were showing officers shooting children, and I know this is not a show about the Black community in the US, but this is what happens in the US, where the police and other armed officers are shooting at the people that they're supposed to be protecting. And they just went for it. They went for it. And I'm like shocked, so shocked and impressed that they did.
Well, I mean, to your point, I mean, the dissertation that I never wrote was definitely the one that is about how the mega franchise is definitely post 9/11 propaganda. It's a comfort tale because we want to believe that all the security forces are actually going to be able to come together in an effective way to stop, a huge terrorist attack from ever happening again. So that's why we're so attracted to the idea of a superhero. It's the idea that like, nothing bad is ever going to happen ever again, because now we live in an age of heroes. And if they all just collaborate together, then something as terrible as 9/11 will never happen again. That's really what it's all about. And that's why there's such an uptick past 2001. I mean, like there's a direct line from the first X-Men film happening in 2000, and then it just ballooning from there. I mean, I know most people don't think about it in those terms, but it's like, what are you really getting out of that experience whenever you're sitting there, experiencing a story about a hero? It's all about comfort at the end of the day. And it's like 9/11 was a hugely traumatic event, especially within the most recent American history. But then also what I love about what's happening now in phase 4 is exploring the underside of that. And it's like, okay, for the sake of your safety, what have we maybe sacrificed? What are the more, negative aspects of that maybe we just let slide just for the sake of comfort and safety? And it's like, yeah, it's those things where it's like, yeah, maybe, placing not enough checks and balances with those kinds of law enforcement agencies and the intelligence community. And, whether or not it becomes an us versus them situation, as opposed to, what it should be about, which is just about making sure that all of our communities are safe and not just the ones that we deem valuable or less so, so I really do feel like I am so excited about everything that's happened out of phase 4. Whenever somebody has some kind of criticism about it, it's just kind of like, you're just not used to seeing your superhero fiction being utilized to examine those power structures this way. That's all it is. And it speaks to me as to like, either folks have not been reading the comics for very long or at all, or 2, they really do read the comics, but they're only reading them for the pretty pictures, and they're not actually taking into any of the things that these comics have been talking about for years, because these are not new concepts. I mean, these comics have been around since the 1940s and 50s, and especially the ones that we're now banking on, the 60s, 70s, and 80s. These are not new concepts. They're not new messages. And certainly it's not a new thing. I mean, even Miss Marvel, I mean, that's not new. It's not like, Kamala showed up last year, so it just feels like it's time for the fiction to move in that direction. I'm so glad that it is, because it does feel like it's evolving with us. It does feel like we can just get beyond just a good guy versus a bad guy. And we can have these moments where it's like, it's about something real, and it's an opportunity to explore something that actually means something just beyond a slugfest. So yeah, I'm so pumped. I'm so glad that you guys are all here to talk about this with me, man. I'm so excited about tonight.
Somebody mentioned in the comments about being outside of the States. I think you guys should also realize that like most of the cast is they're not American. Yeah. Not even Iman Vellani is Canadian. Both the directors are European. Like they're Middle Eastern. I think one's like Tunisian and one's Moroccan, and they're like Belgian and Dutch. So they're not American. And I don't know if anyone realized that, but like the worldview of us is really shitty. everybody sees us like
Rightfully so.
America, like we're suffering, and they could see that, you know, they're like, what is wrong with you guys? You know, what's going on with your government? So the fact that they like said this very loud and proud is probably how that part of the world, which is like the rest of the world, is viewing us right now. And I think that's something to keep in mind, because we think Marvel, we see New Jersey, we're like, oh, American. It's not like everybody in that was not American, from the directors to the writer to the cast, the main star. So I think that's a good, it should put things a bit more into perspective. It's not even just, you know, 9/11 and that frustration, which is very, very good point, but it's also the fact that it's internationally the way we are being perceived, and what is happening. And I think, yeah, you were asking about like the police brutality situation is a very real thing, you know.
Yes.
And the fact that they displayed that was fantastic, and how everybody kind of, you know, geared up together. But can we talk about her costume?
We can.
On a lighter note,
Oh my
yes.
God.
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
I do
How
wanna
she
just
got her
give-
costume. Oh my
I
god,
cried
that was such a
so
yeah.
bad.
That's
I
when the
do wanna
tears
give
started.
just a
Oh my
before we
God.
do that, I want to just give a quick shout out to Cue Ball 197740 and producer Rob as well. We see you guys. Thank you for your comments. I would love to kind of address all of these, but we are, you know, fairly short on time. We've got a lot that we still have to discuss, such as her amazing costume. Yes, let's get
Yes.
into it. First off, it is the cutest thing in the world, and we knew it was coming. But you know, when her mom Maniba like makes it for her and comes in with the box, I'm like, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. She opens it up, and what do we see? We see the lightning bolt, guys, and we get where the lightning bolt comes from because of the last episode with the name kind of turned sideways, you know. So I got really excited about that. She came in with the scarf as well, the red scarf. And of course, she had the awesome mask. So finally getting to see her debut in that costume when she sees Cameron and Bruno, and she's like, "What are you wearing?" And they're like, "What are you wearing?" It's awesome.
Perfect.
It's awesome.
Well, the
Thoughts?
implication
Let's go.
isn't that the mom made it, right? It's that somebody else because it's the scene right before where she's talking to Amir's wife about like, oh, I had this made for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously she had things made,
So that's
Right.
very, very South Asian. You know, the
well, it's also
textile
very
fabric-
Hispanic too. That's why I immediately
Right.
went there, and
Ah,
I'm like, no, you
okay.
definitely went to the
Right.
lady. Like,
Yeah. So
Commissioned
the
it.
textiles, like a lot of the textile capital of the world is in South Asia, actually.
Yeah.
So what people do is they generally go and they get items custom made in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. So everything that's brought from there, it's not like off the shelf like you get from like a store here. And things that are ready made are just like meh, even though we buy ready made like South Asian attire in this country. So when she's like, I had this made for you, that meant that her mom picked every fabric, every trim, designed it, because it's a non-traditional style. So she went and she had every little piece done. And I was so touched by the fact that it was in the toffee box, because, you know, it's that generational trauma, you know, and healing moving forward, like from her mother saving the toffees for her. But I also love the delivery that her mom had, was like, you're not going out, not like dressed like that. And how many times have I heard that from my mother? I still hear it, okay? And I 40 is not that far. So like it was just so cute. It was so cute, and I loved it. I thought it was so sweet.
yeah, if I'm a Hispanic girl from South Florida, so like if Kamala was like, you know, just like, you know, a Hispanic girl from South Florida, this would have been like the mom going to Hialeah and going to the dress shop and having the same experience of like picking everything out. So like, I love how this show is so specific, and at the same time, the experiences are so universal, because
Yeah.
there's just so many similarities between, you know, different communities where it's like, we knew this. We knew for a fact that this fear that Hollywood had, that like, oh, if you make it so niche or specific to one community, you're going to lose the general audience. And it's like, no,
I
you
had
won't.
that fear going into this. I was seriously scared with Miss Marvel that they would go too deep, and I'm really happy that they did just enough.
I mean, I'm
the
sure that there
history.
are experiences that would just be like completely like, and definitely, especially as someone who is American, was raised in America in public schools, there are definitely things that like I've never seen before on a TV show, never seen before on an American TV show. So it's like there are definitely certain things where I'm just like, okay, that's something that I probably need to look up and research so that way I have a better understanding of what's happening. But I think the fear that Hollywood has about where it's like if you make a black movie or a Pakistani project or this, like you're going to lose, you know, the
White
general
guy.
audience.
Yeah.
But it's like if you took
Yeah.
a look what was happening on Twitter, yeah, sure, it was on fire. People were debating about, you know, nonsense, but Ms. Marvel was trending for the entire day.
Dude,
that does not happen with
the
these
most
projects.
successful
It
MCU
trends
movie is
for
Black
like a few
Panther.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was trending for the full entire day. There was no stopping that.
Yeah.
And people were just completely consumed with one, how excited they were, two, how many conversations they could have about it, good or bad. But the fact remains that there was just that this is something that, like, as an American who has never seen these particular things, I think it just proves that, like, you can be specific and it can still be universal and you can still
Right.
have people that are not at
Still
all
be
part of that
appealing.
community.
Right.
Right.
Even if you can't relate to it, it's still appealing. you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I cannot say enough good things about this show. I mean, I called it. I mean, even last week I was like, even if this finale is garbage, I'm still going to talk about how much fun it is and how amazing it is and how some of the things are just things that have never happened before, at least from my recollection, especially in the mainstream, especially coming from Disney. It's coming from Disney. Like
Yeah.
that still like blows my mind. And I'm just, yeah, I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about what the future brings.
I'm so glad that it was trending because look, I mean, it's no secret that, you know, the show, because they, for whatever reason that just flabbergasted me, released it alongside Obi-Wan. You know, it's no secret that the ratings were a little bit lower than your average Marvel show when it first debuted. However, the sheer fact that it was trending on Twitter for a full day, that's enough to get people to go, wait a minute, they did what? And then go and finally re-watch the show or watch the show from the beginning for the first time. And I guarantee after everything that went down on Twitter, everything that people were talking about, how much the show got people talking, I doubt that it's no longer, that it's, the lowest rated show at this point in time. I think people are definitely discovering how good it is. And discovering even things just beyond, the buzz of the mutant, name drop. And of course, the other end credit scene, which we do have to talk about, by the way. Like, I think people are discovering the show and will see for sure how good of a show this really is, like, from beginning to end. Hands down, honestly, for me, best of the MCU shows thus far, definitely. Let's talk, if you guys are okay with it, because I do know that we are running low on time and we haven't even gotten to this, which is a crime. Let's talk Carol Danvers. Yeah, like let's talk Carol Danvers. What happened? What do you guys think happened? We see her in the room, wrist starts glowing, we see her disappear, we see Carol Danvers reemerge. What happened there? I want to get everyone's thoughts and opinions because it's very open to interpretation. If you guys are okay with it, Mike Lee, I'd love to start with you. What happened?
Oh my gosh,
there?
I did not know what happened. I thought that that was she transported, or did she shapeshift, because that's one of Miss Marvel's powers. But the way she shapeshift, because it was like a lot of twirling and everything. It's like, that looks painful if you're going to shapeshift and do that. So, but I thought I was just when you saw the mid credit scenes, like, oh, it's coming. You know it's coming. There's no way that they couldn't get Carol.
Yeah.
Or that they wouldn't include Carol in this. So I liked it. I was thinking if she did transform, because I was noticing her bracelet too. It was like, that's not the same bangle though. So when people make the argument that it was a shapeshift, it's like that can't be right, because the bank or their Carol's bracelet was slightly different shape. So I was like, okay. But I just wanted to note that Nina DaCosta actually directed this, because I was reading who directed. It's like, so is this the kind of vibe that we're going to get to see in the Marvels? Is kind of, kind of teenage vibe, but also like kind of confusion, kind of tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. I really think this is just kind of a tease of what's to come, because it is her little like I guess teaser trailer to the Marvels. But yeah, I was really enjoyed that kind of dynamic, I guess, because there wasn't really an interaction between the two, but I imagine that there'll be quite some equal kind of confusion and perplexity that when they finally see each other face to face.
Yeah. Jasmin, what about you? Any thoughts on that scene?
I think that when they originally got the bangle, I don't know if you guys remember, but we discussed this a bit, that it might be Kree, and that this is tying in Kree, Captain Marvel, and Miss Marvel, because not so much her shape-shifting abilities, because when she shapeshifts, she's still Miss Marvel, she's still Camilla. In this case, she switched places completely with Carol. So I'm assuming this is leading into, just like Mike said, into the Marvels, and it being Kree related is my personal guess. So that's what I think. Yeah.
I will add one thing. I try to go back to the Shang-Chi after credit scenes. Like, I can't find any sort of connections because she was in it.
It's a different outfit. So I did
it's a different outfit. Yeah,
it's a different outfit. I thought it might be Shang-Chi as well, but it's not. Yeah. Or who knows? But yeah, she's wearing a completely different uniform, Carol. So you and I had the same idea.
Yeah.
Or Toni, any thoughts?
I think that the line of like what you seek is seeking you, like that like instantly popped into my head, where I'm thinking like Carol's trying to like call Kamala or call whoever was supposed to have the bracelet, and didn't realize that it's now this like teenage girl that she doesn't know, and instead there was a malfunction and they like accidentally like switched locations instead of like appearing as a hologram or some other mode of like communication. So I think there was like a misfire, and now it's going to be a comedy of errors, which is like how Carol ended up back at Earth the first time around in her movie, and now she's back on Earth by mistake again. So I'm thinking it's the same thing, but I don't know. That's my thought.
Toni, what about you?
So I think Marvel has realized that they cannot afford to paint themselves into a corner. So even within the show, when they're like, doing the flashback and they're unearthing the bangle, they're like, isn't there supposed to be two? It's like they know so little of it. It's almost just like they heard a story and they've banged their one, Hail Mary shot of going home on like these two bangles, but then it's like, are there only two bangles? Because even Loki showed us that, like, even though we just knew there were only 6 Infinity Stones, there's a guy at the TVA who's just cruising around with 20 Infinity Stones, like, in his drawer. So it's like, they've already set up a lot of, like, open-ended ways to go ahead and just get around any one thing. So, like, one, is there a second bangle that is connecting that? And that's why there is a body swap situation. Is there more than 2 bangles? Are there like several sets that are out there within the universe? We have no idea. I find that really exciting just because it's like you can go anywhere. You can do anything with that. And the fact that all they want to do is just make sure that they are connecting firmly Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel. That's all I care about. That's all I really care about. Because I was like, if I have to wait 2 movies or more in order for these 2 characters to meet, I swear to God, I'm flipping people. And the fact that we just got that in a post-credit scene, I'm, again, over the moon about that. Because I'm like, we don't need to waste time in connecting these threads. We've already been in the MCU for over 10 years. We know how some of these things already work. So we don't need to go through the struggle of like hyper explaining every little thing along the way. And I think they've done a good job of just saying, like, you know what? It's just a MacGuffin. There's a bracelet. There might be several more bracelets out there, but all that matters is that these 2 people are going to be in the room together. And that's all anybody really cares about, or at least it's all I really care about.
Yeah. Rue, something that you said really kind of triggered something in my brain just now. And it's the fact, well, first off, when I first saw this, I wasn't sure if she shapeshifted or if she transported, but then looking at Carol's arrival and her confusion at everything that she'd seen, Kamala wouldn't be confused about the Carol Danvers shrine on the wall. But clearly Carol Danvers
Yeah.
is. But the thing that triggered me, Rue, in a positive way, is when you said what you are seeking is seeking you. That's kind of the same thing that transported Kamala the last time that this happened. It transported her back to 1940s Pakistan, for the partition. And now it's gotten me thinking that, yes, it's pretty obvious now that these two swapped places. Carol's where Kamala is, and Kamala's wherever Carol was. But now that, I saw Kamala go to 1941, I'm wondering if it's also transported them in time. And if Carol maybe was, like that would explain why her costume is different, why her hair is different from the Shang-Chi era, from the post-Endgame era. Maybe this is a future version of Carol or something like that coming into the present, and Kamala getting jettisoned into the future
Or
at
it
a
could be
different
From
What's
another
that?
from another multiverse, like
Or
we
from-
have
yeah.
the character from Doctor Strange 2 who just flips through all the various universes. So
Yeah.
it could be a different Carol. We don't even know.
We don't know, right? Like this could potentially lead to incursions, everyone. Incursions. The
That would
yeah,
tie
it's-
in with Loki too, right? Like, because
Yeah.
he winds up in a different timeline. Yeah, that would be wild.
be kind of crazy. Who says that there's no direction to this phase, huh? Come on.
Okay,
Come on.
It just got more
personally
confusing.
Yeah, so I personally love the idea that I don't know what's going to happen. I know this
Yeah.
is like against what everybody else wants to know exactly. They're like, this deviated from comic 4 word number 37. I don't care about any of that. I want to be entertained. I am entertained. So like, I'm super happy not knowing where any of this is going to go.
Plus, I think we're gonna get even more answers next Saturday. As soon as Kevin Feige gets up on stage and does his thing at Comic-Con. So who knows?
Isn't that nuts? Isn't it
Yeah.
crazy that this is all just like lining up so beautifully? If he shows up and doesn't have anything to share with us, like I'm gonna be livid, absolutely livid. But
Well,
I
we're
know
gonna have D23 also in
that's
September.
very
So
true. However, D23 is out a habit of just basically recycling whatever it is they showed at
I hate that so much.
I
Yeah.
do
Wow.
too. So I really am
They get the
hoping
scraps,
this
honestly. It's like, why?
Okay.
Yeah, I am hoping that they have something huge for Comic-Con and they do have something equally huge for D23, because I think what I'm hoping for the most is that we all knew that the pandemic just completely blew through all of their release schedule and then also their production schedule. So I really do hope that all of this has just basically been to get us all back on track. I think we are, especially now that they've shifted production out of Georgia. I really hope that basically that's what's going to happen, that Comic-Con is going to be the opportunity to say, like, we have too big of an announcement, somebody somehow is going to leak it, we had to get it out now, and it's only going to take advantage and dominate the entire Comic-Con news cycle. I'm really hoping for that, and I'm hoping for even more news, because we have seen that they have been, it's been a little bit of a struggle bus at times, because we can see that, like, oh, you really had to accommodate for the pandemic as opposed to just telling the story that you thought you were going to be able to tell without any complication.
yeah.
I think as well, in between Comic-Con and D23, there's also Disney Plus Day, which I think folks are going to come around and sort of have announcements too about upcoming Disney Plus projects. So I'm half wondering if Comic-Con will have a large focus on shows and movies that we kind of already know about. Disney Plus Day will focus on upcoming Disney Plus shows that haven't been revealed yet, and then D23 might be theatrical slate or something like that, or something that we haven't seen at Comic-Con. Who knows? It's all up in the air, but it's coming soon, and I'm excited. But yeah. I know we are running low on time. Before we go, I do want to actually just go down the list and see where Ms. Marvel kind of ranks for you guys. Top 3, if you were to do top 3 Disney Plus shows.
Number 1
so far. I know it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. I'll start. Honestly, that way it's easier for everyone. You guys got a little bit of time to think about it. But for me, this one stuck the landing in a way that others haven't. So, and everything that we've seen in regards to like just the diversity of all of this, how the representation is beautifully done, how the storytelling is beautifully done, how much I loved every single one of the characters. This is number one. This is my favorite of the Disney Plus shows. Right under that, I think I really love Moon Knight and I really love Hawkeye. But yeah, those are my top three. Toni, we'll kick it to you. Top three for you?
WandaVision is always going to sit at number one, just because it took me completely by surprise that they were actually going to go where they actually end up. We all knew what happened to Wanda in the comics, but it's like, are they actually going to do that? Because that can be a little bleak and dark, and they did. So that was awesome. And then it even got bleaker and darker for Doctor Strange. But anyways, I think Miss Marvel is firmly number two, and then probably sitting at number three will be What If. Just because I think with What If, they were able to just kind of experiment wildly. And I'm all about the MCU finally having the security to experiment wildly, even though I know some folks really don't seem to like that. I personally dig it. I will say, though, even though WandaVision is my number one, I can already tell that I'm going to rewatch the hell out of Miss Marvel. And that's something I don't do with WandaVision, because even though Miss Marvel gets me right in like my heart, it's something that I can go back to. Whereas WandaVision, I'm just like, that's a lot of trauma. It's just a little too much for me. But at least with Miss Marvel, there's just enough of everything in it, and it's self-contained. And even though I know she's going to be fitting into our larger universe, it just feels like this is something that I can just pop on and enjoy and knock out in a single day. I love it.
Awesome. Mike Lee, I'll go to you next. Top three?
Top three, I just have to say I really like Miss Marvel. I mean, that after it's sticking the landing, there may have been some small bumps in the road, but overall, it was just such an incredible show. Just as everyone was saying about diversity, family, community, it's a Marvel show, so obviously there's going to be some superheroism, but all of us, I think, can say we were just so emotionally invested in the human side of it, the human stories of this. So Miss Marvel's at number one. It would have number two would have to go to WandaVision. Just that show set the bar high for all other Marvel shows, basically. I can't say any more than that because Toni pretty much broke it down very nicely. But number three would be Loki, because I just kind of like that weird, kind of wacky kind of Marvel show, and I'm glad they went in that direction because it was just so wonderfully out there that it was just not this typical superhero show that we've seen before. It was just this kind of time traveling procedural show that I really liked, that really had some fun twists. I mean, that was seeing Kang was just like, oh my gosh, I did not think they would pull that off, and they did. So that's my number three.
Nice. Jasmin?
I'm biased, but number one's Miss Marvel. Everything put together, the pacing of 6 episodes, the storyline, the accuracy to comics, what they did with small businesses outside of it, the positivity that they pushed out. It's number one. And rewatchability as well, which is actually very important because there's very few series I can rewatch. Number two is Moon Knight. And number three is Falcon or Captain America Winter Soldier. Had the most action in all the MCU series, and I had to give it to them for that.
Excellent. So, yeah. Rue, how about you?
I struggle because I hate like ranking things. So I'll start backwards. So sure. Loki initially was like a little weird for me, but then I'm like, I really liked how it kept me guessing, and I never knew what was going to happen. So because it kept me engaged, like that's one of my top MCU shows. My prior number one was Falcon and the Winter Soldier, for the reasons that Jasmin mentioned, but also because of again, shockingly, the discussions where they went with race. That stuck with me. I cried in a bunch of episodes where there was like learning and emotion and like talking through like the wounds and the fabric of this country and around the world, really, about like the trauma that happens, and it doesn't make the obvious choices very obvious, So I really liked how complicated it was. And again, big ups to Marvel and Disney for taking those risks. And I don't know, I feel like a little, yeah, Miss Marvel like really fucked me up. Like every episode I would cry, and I like keep posting on Instagram like I hate this show, and everyone's like, what? It's so good. What do you mean? And I'm like, haven't any of you understood my sarcasm by now? None of them apparently. Not even my good friends. Like it's really weird. And I'll say this as a supremely underrepresented I guess minority or demographic. That's the word. I was like, what's the word? It's not diagnostic. As a supremely underrepresented demographic, like I don't see people like me on the screen unless they're a cab driver or working at Dunkin' Donuts or a terrorist or some yellow screened Middle Eastern whatever, or a snake charmer somewhere, like even in like the movie The Mummy, right? Like the local Arabs and Egyptians weren't shown in a positive light at all, and this show, which I always go back to, is so real. Like the superhero aspect of it was like a complete afterthought for me. Like none of that stuff mattered to me at all, and they could have completely screwed up her powers and it just didn't matter at all to me, because the way they showed like the relationships between the family members, like in this last episode, her brother came to help her, which was like insane. Older brothers are so annoying. I don't have one, but I've heard that older brothers are terrible. So supportive. Her sister-in-law supportive. Who's ever heard of that? Her parents were so loving and caring after all the angst in the beginning, and like there was a lot of like chatter about like a Desi mom being so mean and ruining her life. And it's like, no, her mom cares for her and loves her and wants to make sure that she's safe and okay. And now her mom is like, making it easy for her to share her story with her family and getting her costume and things like that, and share like that kind of love, like being expressed openly, did not happen in many immigrant households, and for that to be shown like this on a show like this, where they're even talking about their like, or displaying the religion. They're not talking about it because it's like normal. It's normal to be at a masjid. It's normal to wear hijab at the mosque. It's normal not to wear it outside of that. Try new things, like all of this was just so phenomenal for me. And like just seeing like the emotion and the dynamics between all the characters is such a rich show to me. And I'm loving the way the MCU is maturing. So it is about emotions, and it's not just about the plot of like the superpower. I will say though, there was something in this episode that ticked me off, which was when Kamala climbed out of the window and she's sitting on the garage or whatever, and then her dad climbs out. They were both wearing shoes, and no Pakistani household has sneakers in the bedroom. So that right there is an inconsistency. And then in the prior episode where we had Aisha eating, right? Her first meal, she was eating and she was so hungry. She was eating with her left hand like a heathen. No thanks.
Hey,
100%. Like in South Asian culture and Muslim culture, people are eating with their right hand. And I'm like, what is this?
That's a
Come
thing.
on, attention to detail. No, but like these are like, that's the critique I have, like it's so good, like how immersed, but they're presenting it like, yeah, this is normal, and I love the fact that like the conversation we're having here that other people are having are like, yeah, now I want to know about the history, and I want to know what happens at the mosques, and I want to know about this and that. And I just, the world building is like real life. They're showing a real life, and it seems fantastical to so many people, which is insane.
We're billing Marvel our therapy bills. That's essentially
like imagine that our world is fantastical, and it took a superhero to showcase our world in a normal way. Like that to me is like, it's unforgivable, unrelenting. It's just like, it's here.
So is it in your top 3?
Yeah. No, I hated the show.
Or is it sitting at number 2 then?
You're garbage.
So swollen from crying from this show. Yeah, I think I like the show.
All right. It's all right. It was okay.
It was fine. It was fine.
All right.
It was colorful, you know.
Yeah,
I guess it's in your top 3, maybe.
Maybe.
Why not?
I just, I cannot thank you guys enough for making this just an amazing season. To just talk about this with you has just been one of the highlights of my week every week for the past 6 weeks. I learned so much, especially about like Pakistani culture, Muslim culture, everything because of you guys. And, even about Ms. Marvel and just comic book narratives too. And I couldn't be more grateful to have done this for 6 weeks in a row. Actually, except for that 1 week where I was not available. Sorry about that, guys.
We missed you.
Yeah.
Shout out to Stephanie.
Stephanie, you did an amazing job. Thank you for covering for me that week. But yeah, I could not be more grateful to have done this with a better crew than you guys. So thank you so much. And thank you all for listening too. This has been just an amazing opportunity. So upon saying that, I'd love to just go down the line and let everyone know where they can find you. Mike Lee, I'll start with you.
I'm really easy. You can find me at I am Michael J. Lee on all socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot. So yeah.
Cool. Toni.
You guys can find me at the Toni Sanchez, Toni with an I, Sanchez with a Z. If you're going to be at Comic-Con, I'm going to be on a Thursday panel at 4:00. It's going to be about Our Flag Means Death. Super excited about that one. So come check it out. It's already on the Thursday schedule, and I'll be reminding everybody if you follow my social. So yeah, see you there.
Amazing. Jasmin?
Jasmin Joestar on everything, spelled exactly the way you see it. So easy, so simple. And I'm down to talk about Ms. Marvel anytime. Any questions anybody has, I'll be free to answer to the best of my knowledge. So happy to discuss.
Rue?
And you can all find me at Helalipop, Helalipop. Come at me. I have really strong opinions about Star Wars as well. Unpopular ones, but I don't care what you think. But it's been so great chatting with all of you. This has been so wonderful. And thank you for having me on the show and listening to me blather.
We loved having all.
Thanks for having us, guys. Yeah.
This episode is over.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll be back for season 2. You heard it here, folks.
Yes, season 2.
I'm not Kevin Feige, but you
Bring
All
it.
merchandised out.
Oh, come on. There's going to be a season 2. You can't just leave Kamran, back in Karachi like that with his story's got to.
Talk about that. We didn't even talk about Kamran and the Red Diamond.
They made friends. They're like,
Oh my
you know
God.
what?
There's so much
Stephanie,
more.
we need another hour.
This is so much to unpack here,
There's so much
Steph.
more.
Thank
There
you.
has to be. Come on, he's going to announce it during Comic-Con or D23. I have a feeling.
I just
And
stumbled
when-
upon a Comic-Con badge. Now I just have to figure out where to stay if I'm going to be sleeping in my car, because I completely that Ms. Marvel is going to be a thing there this year. And someone's like, "Hey, do you want my badge?" I'm like, "Yes."
Nice. Hopefully we'll get to see you there, Jasmin. That'd be awesome.
I will be there.
And
And I'll be
as
shouting
always,
out.
guys, stay tuned to Nom Talk Network and Basic Binges. Stephanie, thank you for everything this season. And again, thank you all for listening. We'll see you guys again soon. All right.